Together we can save the world. Together we are invincible. Save the world from wars. Save the world from breaking apart. Save us from losing our hearts. Save us from losing our souls. Save us from losing our souls. Save the world. Save the world from wars. Save the world from breaking apart. Save us from losing our hearts. Save us from losing our souls. Together we can save the world. Together we are invincible. Save the world from wars. Save the world from breaking apart. Save us from losing our hearts. Save us from losing our souls. Save us
morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Clap your hands, clap, clap, clap. Stomp your feet, stomp, stomp, stomp. Spin around, spin, spin, spin. All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. 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 Wash your hands, wash, wash, wash. Shake your hands, shake, shake, shake. Brush your teeth, brush, brush, brush. All right. Good morning.
Ken says, where the hell did you find this song? Sir. Sir. The angels gave it to me. I can't believe you even had to ask. But good morning in that. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou. Live for you on LouTube today. Thanks for tuning in to the morning show with Uncle Lou and BVD. BVD will be calling in just a minute. I saw him in the comment section, so he did manage to wake up again this morning. So far, so good for BVD. Well, I'm assuming he'll be calling in a minute. as I did see him in the comments, and that would be 3 out of 3 shows that BVD has showed up for so far, which would be a minor miracle. He's batting 100 or batting 1,000, whatever they call it. If he calls in, which, like I said, I'm sure he will. Saw him in the comments this morning. Yeah. So anyway, appreciate you guys tuning in. The morning show, Uncle Lou, BVD. We do this show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. Right? Yes. We do this show year round. This is a football channel. We do talk some football and some sports on this morning show, but we get outside of that too and talk about some other stuff, basically whatever's on our mind. People have been asking me for what seems like forever about doing a podcast or something like that. I've never been into podcasts. I floated the idea around to starting one at one point, never got around to it. I just don't have a lot of passion for a podcast, and it's impossible for me to do anything I don't really have a passion for. So that's why I never really started the podcast. So, but you can think of this as sort of a podcast. Good morning, BVD.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Oh, doing great. I was just giving you all kinds of credit. You're batting 1,000, sir. 3 for 3 so far that you've showed up here on the morning show. This is just amazing.
Was there ever any doubt?
Yeah, the odds. I checked the odds before this week started, and you were a huge underdog. The betting line was that you would only show up 2 out of the 3 days this week. So
I was gonna ask what the over under was.
Yeah. So, so this is great news.
Outstanding.
But what's going on though? I was just making sure everybody knew Monday, Wednesday, and Friday where they're supposed to be, which is right here at 8 a.m. on Uncle Lou and BVD. We do this show 3 days a week. We might expand it down the road. We're going to see how it goes during the off season, but for now, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m. And then I have my show Tuesday and Thursday night at 10 p.m. So, BVD, you got some shows too, don't you?
Yeah, I'm working that out right now. It's looking like I'm going to go Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8, and then my normal Sunday night show at 8:30, and then whenever Tennessee plays basketball, as long as I can stand it, or as long as the people can stand me.
Yes. Speaking of basketball, we got to play the Barn this weekend.
We got the Cocks.
Y'all probably handle them. We'll probably lose to the Barn, though. Barn's a good team this year, right? They're the legit top 10 team, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think you guys, honestly, should be in the top 25.
I do too. I do too. You know what it is? If there's a lot of other teams that if they had the same record and resume as Georgia, they would be ranked. But I try to keep reminding myself, like, think about it like football, right? Anytime Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, any of the big name brands in football, if they start out 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, they're going to be ranked. It doesn't matter, right? But then you take a team that's sort of out of nowhere, they have to get, it's much later in the season before they start getting any type of respect. And that's what it's going to be with Georgia basketball because they've just been terrible for so long. I think they're 10-4 now, which is pretty good for Georgia. And they had that win over Memphis last week before dropping one to Kentucky a couple of days ago. But I do think they're a top 25 team, though. I don't know that they're much better than that. And they're going to be wildly inconsistent because really they've got Anthony Edwards. But if a team ever figures out a way to slow him down, it's pretty much lights out for Georgia at that point because we don't have a whole lot behind him.
I was just going to ask, what have you guys got surrounding him?
I mean, we have decent players, but I mean, we don't have anything close after him even resembling like a superstar. We don't even have any, like last year Tennessee had a really good team, top 15-ish, top 20-ish, and you guys had like Admiral Schofield and Grant Williams. You had a couple of guys you could sort of rely on down the stretch. Georgia really doesn't have that. They're really a one-man band, but which I'll take that for Georgia. We've been so bad in basketball for so long. I'm happy with the way they've done so far this season. I've said it a million times. I'll keep saying I expect Georgia to make the NCAA tournament. That's about the extent of my expectations for Georgia basketball, though.
I can't decide whether Tennessee's going to make the tournament or not. When the season started, I was 100% confident they were going to. Then we lost Lamont Sanford, and I thought, no, there's no way we're going to make it. And then we got Vescovi, and I don't know, man. I'm going to have to see about half of the SEC schedule before I decide.
Yeah. And that's pretty much that's starting up now. About the first month and a half or so of college basketball season, you have a whole bunch of non-con games, and then you're lucky if you get one or two good ones, like Georgia played Memphis, and we were in, one of those tournaments in Hawaii where we played Michigan State or something. But for the most part, you're playing a lot of smaller schools like the first month of college. But conference schedule will be kicking off now, so should get a lot more interesting and entertaining. And
That's one thing I like about Rick Barnes. He has ramped up the non-conference schedule before the season starts. We've actually played, I want to say 3 top 25 teams so far, maybe 4. I can't really remember. Now is when I start paying attention to it a little bit better. Now that football's over, college football that is. And I'll start paying a little bit more attention to it now. It's like you said the other night when I was watching the show with basketball. For me, it's if we win and have a great season, yay. But if we lose, I very rarely get all bent out of shape over it, and unless it's Kentucky in a close game or something like that.
Yeah, and speaking of interesting and entertaining, Mike Leach is in the SEC. What a great day. What a great day it is for people like me and you, BVD. People
What did I miss?
You don't know Mike Leach got hired by Mississippi State?
No.
Oh, God.
Yesterday was a weird day for me. So,
Okay.
No,
Yes.
that's awesome.
Mike Leach officially hired by Mississippi State. I have the video pulled up, and I'm going to play in a minute where he arrives on the plane in Stark, Vegas. He gets off the plane, shaking that cowbell. But our prayers have been answered, BVD. We went from losing, we lost Butch Jones, and even as a Tennessee fan, I get all that, but from an entertainment perspective, we lost a lot when we lost Butch Jones, and we didn't have much else to fall back on in terms of entertaining press conferences in the SEC. And lightning has literally struck twice in the last month with Ole Miss getting. Can you, BVD, Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach are both coaching in the SEC in the same division in the same state.
Yeah.
Our prayers have been answered. If you're not watching every single Mike Leach press conference and Lane Kiffin press conference, you're college footballing wrong. This is pure entertainment. I couldn't be more excited.
And don't forget the West, along with Leach and Kiffin, they've added Kevin Mays Pinky to the roster.
Yeah, and Kevin Mays' Pinky was in my comment section last night, as well as Mike Leach's pet Sasquatch was also in my comment section last night. So I'm not sure if they're tuned in this morning or if they're on another one of their 45 troll accounts. But I wish they would switch back to Mike Leach's pet Sasquatch.
If I ever figure out how to make 2 or 3 more troll accounts, look out. This internet thing's in trouble.
I want to play some of this. Mike Leach arriving in Starkville.
Let's do it.
He looks. Well, you guys will just have to watch. Look how excited they are. That's the biggest.
Have something to be.
I'm
Have something to be excited about.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure this is the biggest airport in Mississippi too.
And that may be the biggest plane. And look at that. They've even got that Bluetooth guy up in the right-hand corner of this video. How cool is that?
Right? They know what's up. I want to know who the kid was that got off the plane in a tank top. There he is. Oh my! I couldn't be more excited. He looks half dead. He looks like he really could care less.
That's hilarious. I'm about 5 seconds behind you watching and listening, so that's why you're not. I had the phone muted, so you didn't get to hear my laugh. That guy, he's something else. Look at their fans.
Oh, they're so excited to have this guy, the pirate.
How did I miss this?
It happened real quick.
I've really got to start paying more attention, especially now that I'm on this show with you. I got to step my game up.
Somebody just said something about aliens. Did you hear it in the background? Hold on, let me rewind that. Did you hear it?
I've kind of got it muted because I don't want the feedback, the echo on there, so I'm just kind of watching. I'm going to go back and watch this though after the show for sure. It's enjoyable enough just watching it with no sound.
I'm sure you guys listening heard that. Let me pull the comments up. Did y'all hear? Somebody yelled out something about aliens. This is gonna be great. I mean, think about how much attention he got at Texas Tech and Washington State, and now imagine him in the best conference in all of football, where people literally worship college football down here. It's going to be unbelievable. I hope he doesn't start taking himself too seriously. I hope he keeps his same sort of persona and nonchalant attitude and
It's
all that.
probably going to get worse or better depending on how you look at it.
Yeah. I'm so excited. I really am. These press conferences are going to be unbelievable. Him and Lane Kiffin, same conference, same division, same state.
Hopefully they'll be at SEC Media Days together.
Yeah. And somebody brought this up last night, but just think about the SEC West. Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher, Mike Leach, Lane Kiffin. I mean, you got some good coaches over there.
Ed Orgeron.
I mean, I don't think I mean, hiring Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach didn't make the SEC West easier. You know what I mean? I mean, those are... Say what you want about Mike Leach. I mean, he's never won a division, but I mean, he's going to put some good offenses on the field out there.
Did he ever win the conference at Texas Tech?
No. I think he had the same record. And this was, I think, when they didn't have conference championship games, or he might have had the same record or something, but the tiebreaker was, he lost the tiebreaker or something, so he technically didn't win the division or the conference or something like that. But no, he's never won a division or a conference. But came close last year in the Pac-12, 2018. Lost like the last game of they were like 10-1 or something heading into that last game of the season last year in 2018, and then lost to Washington to finish 10-2. And he had, several good years when he was at Texas Tech or whatever, but
I just think we could have had him in the East a few years back.
Yeah, that was my pick for Tennessee, just purely entertainment value.
Yeah, I was not wanting any part of that guy.
There was I don't know about a lot, or definitely not a majority, but there were Tennessee fans who would have been perfectly fine with a Mike Leach hire. I mean, I heard from some of them on my channel. It wasn't like the John Gruden thing was just, I've never seen anything like it. But there was some people who were sort of on the Mike Leach to Tennessee train.
Well, I know you remember Bill for Balls, right?
Yeah.
He was one of those guys.
Yeah.
He was all fired up about the possibility.
Yeah. I think he's a good coach. I mean, he's kind of like Lane Kiffin. I mean, he's going to put a good offense on the field. You just have to be willing to put up with some of his baggage. Now their baggage is different. With Mike Leach, it's just sort of weirdness with the conspiracies and the aliens and funny press conferences. And Lane Kiffin is sort of a different animal altogether. But
I think we're about to find out just how good a coach he really is.
yeah, I mean, if you really want to test yourself, that's the division to go to right now. I don't know. The Big Ten East is really good too, with Penn State and Ohio State and Michigan and Michigan State. But man, the SEC West, like I said, the hiring of these two coaches definitely doesn't make the SEC West easier. Like the hiring of the hiring of Moorhead, that made the SEC West easier. He wasn't a good fit there, but these are good hires, I think, by both these teams.
What about Matt Luke at Ole Miss? I know he's with you guys now, but
Yeah.
That was rather, I can't think of the word, but that was kind of a thud.
Yeah, I give Ole Miss a pass because it's always difficult to hire a coach while you're on probation, because who really wants that job,
He was all fired up for it,
Well, it was his first. It was his
makes
first.
sense, yeah.
It was his first gig or whatever. But and that's what you have to, when you're in a position that Ole Miss was in. That's what you have to do. I mean, no established big name coach is going to raise their hand and go, where I want to coach? A school that just got put on probation, has scholarship restrictions, and no. So, I
unless
didn't really
you're
fault
Terry
Ole Miss.
Bowden.
Yeah, Penn State got kind of lucky with the James Franklin hire, but even he came from Vandy, and I don't really think too many people outside of the SEC really appreciated how good of a coach James Franklin was before he got to Penn State. But me and you saw firsthand. I mean, what he did at Vandy was nothing short of a miracle.
Oh, I tell you what, I would, to this day, I would have given anything to have that guy.
He's a hell of a coach. And
He is.
and for some reason, I still don't think he gets the credit or the respect he deserves for even what he's done at Penn State. I mean, he took over at Penn State on the tail end of them coming off of a bunch of restrictions from the whole Jerry Sandusky thing or whatever, and they haven't made the playoffs or anything like that, but they've been in the conversation for Big Ten titles and playoff runs almost every single year that he's been there.
For some reason, I was thinking they actually won it year before last, but they've had trouble with the Ohio State hurdle.
Yeah, now they've won the Rose Bowl, right? I think, but did they win the Big Ten that year? I don't remember. Maybe they did, but I
One
think
of the
I think
geniuses
he's done a good job.
in the chats can look that up.
Oh
for us.
yeah, the people in the chat have never got anything wrong. They know everything. Shout out to Joshua Haddon. Thank you for the super chat this morning. Sure, sir, he says appreciate all you do in 2019. Yeah, appreciate all y'all do for tuning in. Listen, if it wasn't for you guys, me and BVD would just be talking on the phone right now. So
Yeah,
appreciate you guys actually listening to what we have to say. So y'all are the real MVPs. And speaking of that, we do appreciate all y'all tuning in. Dog Life Ain't Easy, David Big Dog Ramey, John M, Alden Williams, Snake Spence, 2% Cream.
love that one.
I'm a whole milk type of guy. Clemson alum. Good morning, sir. Melissa May, Katusa. Holy Moly Donut Shop. What about that one, BVD? Holy Moly Donut Shop is a good one.
I think I'm going to do a top 10 sometime of the all-time best chat names.
Oh, that's a great idea.
We have some great ones.
Yeah, that's a good
and
idea.
a lot of our guys, visit both shows. So
Yeah, that's a good one. Hokey for Life, The Punisher, Tiger Cat, Kevin Cook, SEC Dog, Tim Mathis, Mr. Worst Minecraft is joining us this morning.
Mr. Worst Minecraft.
He says today's the first day it feels great to be a Mississippi State fan. I don't know. It probably felt pretty good when Dan Mullen was there and you guys were winning 9 games. I mean, that's an accomplishment for any Dan Mullen coach team.
And almost winning the division a couple of times.
Yeah,
with
I don't know that there's been a coach anywhere in college football in the last 10 years that's as good at almost winning his division as Dan Mullen is.
Be a toss-up maybe between him and Harbaugh.
Yeah, Harbaugh.
we may have to put James Franklin on that list. Maybe if we can get some clarification from the comments. How about that? I don't know if you said him the name Cajunomics. Did you miss
Yeah,
that one?
I recognize that one too. BVD, what am I gonna do if Florida does win the East? My whole Dan Mullen has never won a division thing is just gonna go out the window.
Yeah, but you've always got the Megan Mullen thing. Isn't that her first name, Megan?
Yeah, and plus, let's be real. Even if he wins the East, he's not winning. He's not winning the SEC title game. We already know. So, but
Nah, not as long as Saban's there.
But I don't want him to
And
win the division, though. I want to be able to keep the whole, Harbaugh is Mullen and can't win the division and blah, blah, blah. I'll even go this far. If for some reason Georgia were to stumble, whether it be this year, next year, whatever, I hope it's Tennessee that's there to pick up the pieces instead of Florida. How about that?
Me too. I tell you
I
what,
know you do.
I want to ride the Florida bus. That's what I want to do. I don't even want to ride it. I just want to get off of it.
Yeah, you just want to get in that cattle call line, don't you?
That's right.
You want to get you a little smoochy smooch from old
Still
Miss
can't
Mullen.
believe she's kissing them dudes on the lips. What's wrong with her? What's wrong with him?
I don't know. It's almost like they're running a. Well, never mind. I was about to make I was actually about to make a church joke about molestation, but I'm gonna let that one slide. Since
Glad you didn't go there.
it's only 8:29 in the morning. Maybe I'll save that for the nighttime show. I don't know.
Yeah, you can come over on my show tonight and say all the Mullen. I'm not gonna say it either. You can come over and do all the Mullen jokes you want.
Yeah.
You saved me. You saved me, by the way, last night. I don't know if you saw my text.
Oh yeah, you said you ran out of stuff to say, which I didn't think
dude,
I'd ever hear you say.
Yeah,
that.
I was literally speechless for a minute there. I mean, I had my finger on the red button, was getting ready to click in stream. I don't know what happened.
Well, I hope you're not speechless now because I heard you talk about it the other day, but I want you to talk about it now. I want you to talk about Cade Mays, and I want you to talk about what you think about the lawsuit with his dad, and do you think he will get eligibility immediately based off of that?
You know what? It seems, at least out of the Tennessee camp, that the general consensus is he's going to get immediate eligibility. But what else are they going to say? What else is our fan base going to say? I personally, I don't know. I really don't know. I hope he does, of course. You remember, I'm sure, when Cade flipped on us and committed to you guys, I kind of went off on him a little bit, and I already had a dislike for the guy because of what he did up here in my town at a game, and I'd forgiven him for that. He was a high school kid. High school kids do stupid things, and so I'd kind of forgiven him for that. And then the whole Georgia thing happened, and I've been all over the place with this kid, and I guess I'm happy because we need offensive linemen, even though we're better right now than we have been in a while. But if you look at our offensive line right now, going into next year with the fantastic news that Trey Smith is coming back, dare I say we might have the best offensive line possibly in the league. Maybe
4 or 5 stars, right?
Yeah, and some 4 stars.
Isn't
a lot
it
of
funny?
experience.
Isn't it funny how when a team suddenly accumulates some 5 stars, rankings start mattering again?
Yeah. I'm sure you've heard me say I don't buy into the whole 5-star thing as much as a lot of people, but I guess you kind of have to. But what's amazing to me, man, is how quick this offensive line situation has turned around. Before going into this season, we had the worst offensive line in the league, maybe the country, in a lot of people's eyes, and that's an area where it generally takes 2 or 3 or 4 years to totally rebuild. We still don't have a whole lot of depth, but I like where we're going. in that
Offensive
direction.
line is probably one of the most difficult position groups to really get to an elite level, but it's also
Quickly,
it's
yeah.
also probably the most important. If you believe, now coaches say a lot of stuff, and you got to kind of sort through the coach speak to kind of find what's real. But almost every single coach in the SEC says over and over and over again, it's a line of scrimmage league. And I know that's kind of a coaching cliche in general, but you do hear the coaches harp on that in the SEC, really even more than you do in the other conferences. That
Yeah.
without at least a good offensive line, an otherwise talented team can struggle. You can have the best quarterback in the world. If you can't protect them, what are you going to do? You can have the best running backs in the world. If there's nowhere to run, what are they going to do? So
Yep.
there is a lot of truth to that. But yeah, it is funny. For whoever doesn't have 5 stars, 5 stars don't matter. And then when they get 5 stars, suddenly and I'm not saying you, I'm just talking fans in general. And I mean, I've been on the other side of it too. I do the same thing
Right.
too. And you mentioned not being totally into the ranking thing, and I get that to a certain degree. But the thing is, like that's why you want a bunch of them. People
Yeah.
people always will point to such and such 5-star that was terrible as proof that the rankings don't matter, and then they'll point to such and such 3-star that ended up being a Hall of Famer in the NFL.
Yeah.
But the
You were getting ready
reality
to take the
is,
words out of my mouth.
yeah, but when you just look at the percentages, I mean, something like 95% of 5-stars get drafted. About less than 1% of 3-stars get drafted. So it clearly matters. Talented teams are winning.
That's kind of
Generally
it's
speaking.
kind of like the people that say recruiting rankings don't matter. I think they do matter. I mean,
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And yes, a 5-star could be a bust. So the more you have, the better. But yeah, I think recruiting, and I get in this argument with people a lot. I think in college, talent is more important than coaching. I think in the NFL, the opposite is true because everyone in the NFL is so talented. Like the worst player in the NFL is elite. You know what I mean? He looks bad sometimes compared to other players, but like I think scheme and coaching and stuff like that is super important in the NFL. And it can be important in college too, but 99 times out of 100 in college football, the more talented team is going to win. If Alabama lines up against Vandy and they play 100 times, Alabama's going to win how many of those? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Regardless, you could swap coaching staffs. Alabama is still going to win. Alabama would beat Vandy even if you swap the coaching staffs.
Absolutely.
And upsets happen. I know upsets happen, but they're upsets for a reason. I think recruiting is everything in college football. Ask Florida fans, right? Florida fan will tell you all day long that Dan Mullen is a 100 times better coach than Kirby Smart. They truly believe that, and they will tell you that 1,000 times in a day if you're willing to sit there and listen. What's his record against Kirby Smart, though? 0-3. Why? Less talented teams. So talent clearly matters.
It goes back to the old Jimmys and Joes versus the X's and O's.
Right. And like I said, like if you look at college football, like there are certain instances you can find where X's and O's clearly matter. Like when Chip Kelly at Oregon first started that, let's run 100 plays thing. Like they were out scheming people, no question about it, no doubt about it. They were beating more talented teams because they developed a scheme that nobody had ever seen before. So no doubt about it, that can happen. But generally speaking, in college football, I think talent is more important than coaching.
How would you say that applies to schools like Georgia Tech, Air Force, the schools that run the ball?
Yeah.
98% run the option and all that old school stuff.
Yeah. A lot of teams
I-
used to do that, right? Nebraska won a bunch of national titles running the triple option, right? And the reason that most big time schools went away from that back in the early to mid 90s, it used to be that from the time you were 6 or 7 years old till the time you ended up playing for Nebraska or whoever you played for, if there was 25 people on the team, the fastest 13 people played offense, and they took the other 12 and just put them somewhere on defense. And that's one of the reasons the option became so successful. Defensive speed is what killed the option. When teams find, and this happens all the time, offense is always first to come up with something new, and then the defenses have to catch up to figure out a way to slow it down, right? So the option was killing people. No people, it was new, whatever. People hadn't seen it before, yada yada yada, and the defenses weren't fast enough to keep up with it on the edge. Well, finally, coaches started looking around and going, you know what? Let's take some of these people on offense that are so fast, put them on defense, and the option basically went away overnight in big time college football. And that's why you saw, like, the only teams that still run it now are teams that can't recruit otherwise, right? Like, you mentioned Army and Navy and these teams like that.
Yeah.
They're not going out and signing these high 4 and 5 star recruits that are typically running pro style or spread offenses in high school. So they get what's left over, which tends to be, these kids that run the option and stuff like that. But
I tell you what they get at the service academies, and it takes this to defend that triple option, is very disciplined kids.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
You've got to be extremely disciplined. And I don't know, I'm not an X's and O's guy. A lot of people think because of my love for college football and football, I know a lot about the actual X's and O's, and I don't. But I do know in order to defend that, you've got to be disciplined and stick with your assignments. And that's why, like you said, you don't see a lot of 5-star. I can't even think of the most famous or popular or successful 5-star that went to a service academy. It's always the 2 and 3-star guys.
Yeah. And how do you feel about this? For a long, long time, you know how it works at a service academy, I'm assuming, but you're obligated to join the military when you attend a service academy upon graduation. I mean, that's the way it works. And generally speaking, that's why people go there. They want to be in the military, and you graduate and you enter the military as an officer. But they have recently, in fact, I think it was Trump. If you're drafted by the NFL, then the Army, the Navy, whatever, has to defer your enrollment if that's what you want. So if you end up being good enough at Army as an offensive lineman or whatever else to where the NFL has shown interest in you, you're now allowed to go into the NFL and give it a shot. And I'm all for that, aren't you?
Yeah, it was Trump. I can't remember if that was just this last year that he did that or not. And I never paid a lot of attention to the rules and stuff of the service academies and Army and stuff like that until this past year when my quarterback at Greenville actually went to Army. And so I paid a little bit more attention to the way they do things there. And I may be wrong on this. Red shirts are not very common, I don't think, at Army and in the service academies either. Again, I could be wrong about that. But my boy Cade Ballard got a red shirt this year because he got a medical red shirt.
Yeah.
And I swear I remember people saying, "Oh, it's rare. The only way you're getting a red shirt in the military or in the service academies is with some kind of injury." I should probably check with him on that and see if that's true. But I do know he got one. So the rules are definitely different. And I'm with you 100%, man. I agree. These kids, they're great kids when they go into these academies, and they're going to be great kids when they come out because, like you said, they're going to be serving the country. They're officers, and a lot of them end up like my friend Cade. He wants to end up in Washington, making laws for this country. So you definitely ain't going to be no big dummy, to go compete there.
Dummy. FSU FBBBB fan in the comment section says, give me a 3-star football player that can comprehend a game plan over a 5-star any day. Well, FSU fan, apparently Willie Taggart felt the same way and didn't recruit any talent, which is why now you're losing to terrible Arizona teams in bowl games that no one's watching, and you're not a very good team because he recruited a bunch of 3-stars that can comprehend a game plan instead of recruiting 5-stars. So, lucky for you, you got what you wanted. Most Florida State fans are hoping that the new coaching staff doesn't feel the same way you do because most Florida State fans actually want to win games, and they know that to win games you have to have talented players, not 3-stars who can comprehend a game plan. I'm a no-star. I can comprehend a game plan. So this I don't know. I just feel like if there's people out there who really feel like the stars don't matter, if people truly believe that, then I just think they're ignorant in that subject matter, and literally no coach worth anything at all feels that way. They all want 4- and 5-star players. You ask any coach right now, you can have a team full of 5-stars or you can have a team full of 3-stars. Every single one of them is going to choose a team full of 5-stars.
They would probably laugh at you.
Right. It's just the idea of that is ridiculous. And again, this is a Florida State fan, a team that over the last few years has been really, really bad, a team that outside of Cam Akers doesn't have a whole lot of NFL talent on that team. And what do you know? They're in here trying to convince people that recruiting and recruiting rankings don't matter. You know who does think that recruiting and recruiting rankings matter? Clemson, Ohio State, LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia. The top 6 or 7 programs in America. Why are they the top 6 or 7 programs in America? Because they all recruit in the top 6 and 7 every single year. That's why. So, this idea that recruiting doesn't matter, you fans can keep holding on to that as long as you want to, and you're going to keep playing in Christmas bowls. I mean, that's just what's going to happen. You're just not going to compete with the big boys in college football if you can't recruit, period.
And that's not a recent trend either.
No, it's always been that way. Now, maybe the whole ranking thing is only like 15 to 20 years old. I think that came about in the early 2000s when people like 24/7 came along and started actually ranking recruits. But even prior to that, and schools still do. I mean, it's not like a school just goes to 24/7 and says, okay, we're going to recruit whoever 24/7 says is the best 10 players. Schools don't do that. Schools have their own recruiting rankings and recruiting departments and things like that. So it's not like they just go off of 24/7. But generally speaking, there's 3 ranking services. If they all have a kid, ranked within the top 10 or 15 in his position in America, then chances are that kid's pretty good. You know what I mean? I mean, it just matters.
I think part of the problem might be with people that think that they don't matter, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I said it wrong earlier about it. What I meant was not every 5-star kid is a 5-star kid. But what blows my mind is the fact that, like you said, you got 3 different rating services, at least 3 different rating services. How can one kid be a 3-star on one and a 5-star on the other? That's the part that I don't understand.
I don't think I've ever seen that. But that's why the only thing I use is a 24/7 composite index, because it's an average of all 3 rankings, the 3 big ones.
That makes the most sense. Surely you've seen, 4- and 5-star differences.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, there's only 32 5-stars a year. That's it. And it's
that's a set number.
A 5-star ranking is a projection that this person is a first-round draft pick. That's what it is. That's what it means. And there's 32 NFL teams.
Wow. So I learned something today.
That's what that means. So, when you start looking at so the highest 32 ranked kids will be 5-stars, right? So how much better is the 32nd kid than the 33rd? Because the 33rd is going to be a 4-star. Not that much.
Yeah,
Chances are.
theoretically, yeah.
Yeah, not that much. But, even before these ranking services, I mean, you go back 30, 40 years ago, coaches, they still do this. Like, why do coaches spend, if a coach isn't coaching, where is he? Traveling. Doing what? Scouting. Right?
Scouting,
I mean, it's a huge deal. And when they go to these high schools and they go to these high school games, what are they looking for? Talent. They're not looking for someone's ability. What did the guy say? Comprehend a game plan.
It's nice if you can get both, but
well, that's the thing, and
Yeah.
and you can. This reminds me of an argument I have with Georgia fans all the time. They say, "Well, of course we don't have huge passing numbers. We're a running team." And then I have to, I have to knock on their forehead. Hello, genius. What if I told you that LSU, Clemson, and Ohio State outrush us and have grown-up passing games? Like this idea that everything is one or the other. Like, you can either be really talented or you can be really smart and quote-unquote comprehend a game plan. Do you think Trevor Lawrence can comprehend a game plan? Clearly he can. And breaking news, this just in, Trevor Lawrence is also talented.
no.
Yeah, I read it on Fox News, so it has to be true.
They've won a couple of games in a row with him too, haven't they?
3 or 4 or such.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Shane Bentley, thank you for the super chat, sir. He says, Lou, you should include Auburn in the teams that recruit. Half their team are transfers from UGA. Slackers. Auburn does have a reputation of taking a lot of Georgia players that got kicked off. It hasn't happened a lot like recently, but there was a period of time where it happened quite a bit. And they get a lot of their players from Georgia too. And I'm jealous of Auburn in terms of their I am jealous of Auburn's defensive line. I love Kirby. He's recruited at an insane level, and I don't ever want to come across like I complain about enough things. I don't ever want it to come across that I'm complaining about Kirby Smart's recruiting. But defensive line was one area that the recruiting was lacking in his first few years in Athens. It seems like every big-name defensive line target we went after chose either Auburn or South Carolina instead of Georgia. And a lot of those kids were from Georgia and were choosing to go other places. Now, we've got a couple of studs there now. But initially, Kirby was swinging and missing on a lot of D-line talent. But that's sort of turned around a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of happened to Alabama too. They lost a lot of their big, huge, mammoth defensive linemen. Granted, they still got a pretty decent defense, but I think a lot of the reason their defense fell off this year was that reason right there.
Yeah, D-line. Injuries hurt them too. I mean, before the season started, they started the season with 2 true freshman inside linebackers. And I know they recruited a ridiculous level. Maybe you can get away with one of your inside linebackers being a true freshman, but to have to start 2 freshmen inside linebackers, I mean, that's a pretty steep learning curve there for 2 true freshmen to be starting on the inside like that. So I think a lot of people expected Alabama's defense to take a little bit of a step back this year. I don't think maybe they expect. It was the combination of Alabama's defense not being what we're used to seeing, and then the combination of LSU's offense just being completely ridiculous. And that's clearly what led to LSU winning the West this year was their offense. Have you made an official prediction for the Natty game?
I haven't really laid down a specific score that I've stuck with, but I'm thinking LSU by 10.
Yeah.
And the closer we get to the game, the more I kind of not worry about that because I really don't care who wins. But I'm thinking it might be a little closer than that. I don't know. I've been talking a lot this week and to the LSU fans about the fact that they haven't had a really bad game yet this year. And almost every year, a team that wins the national championship has one bad game.
Yeah.
And I guess the Auburn game is the one they're pointing to as their bad game since they only won by 3. And I'm pointing at Clemson. The game early in the year where they had to stop a 2-point conversion at the end of the game to win. That, to me, is a bad game against a bad North Carolina team. So if I'm a Clemson or if I'm an LSU fan, I'm definitely concerned about that happening. I don't think it will. I think this is just a special team that's ridiculous, like you said, on offense. So I don't think that's going to happen to them. But we'll see.
The
I just want a good game.
Oh, that's what I want too. I talked a lot about that last night. I mean, and this is true whether it's the national championship game or some random Thursday night game in week 3 between two nobodies. But as a college football fan, anytime you sit down to watch a college football game that doesn't involve your favorite team, that's really all you want is an entertaining game. I mean, the last thing you want to see is like what we saw last year, where a 44-16 type of thing. I mean, it's just I mean, if you're Clemson, you love that because the whole second half you're just in coast mode. You don't even have to sweat or worry. But outside of Clemson fans, every other college football fan on planet Earth was disappointed in last year's national title game, I think. And I don't want another one of those. I want a close game. And I think most people feel the same way, like I said, regardless of whether it's the biggest game, the natty game, or just some random regular season game. You just want to see a good game.
Are you okay with 2 questions? Are you okay with defensive struggles in championship games or games that that doesn't have your favorite team in it? And will you watch the Division 64 championship game this weekend?
The answer to your second question is almost certainly not. Lou Jr.'s birthday was a few days ago, but his birthday party is this weekend, and he's got a bunch of his friends coming over for a spend the night party. So I probably won't have time to sit down and watch that game. The first question you ask is an interesting one. 7, 8, 9 years ago, I did get to the point where I got a little bored with like the Alabama versus LSU type games that kept being 10-3 and 17-10 and stuff like that. But over the last 4 or 5 years, we've sort of had this offensive explosion in college football. So now when you see one of those defensive type games, it's out of the ordinary. And so now, like, I'm able to appreciate those games again now because it's not the norm anymore. But it did get boring. Even as an SEC fan, I got bored with some of those low scoring. I mean, you had the game where LSU didn't even. I mean, LSU was an amazing team that year. They didn't even cross the 50-yard line on Bama that year, and it was 10-3 or whatever. It was just. I was just like, God, this is. It's like in baseball. Everybody likes a no hitter in baseball or like a 2-1 game in baseball, but not every single time. I mean, sometimes you go to the baseball game, you want to see 7 home runs. Sometimes that's fun to see, and I guess it just comes down to whatever tends to be happening the most at that particular time in college football. Then I enjoy seeing the opposite of that every once in a while too. So right now you're seeing a ton of offense. Now I would be shocked. That's one of the reasons I really like that Clemson Ohio State game because it wasn't 10-3. But it also wasn't 50-45. It was right in the middle there. Both teams got into the 20s. What did that end up being? 29-23 or something like that. That was a great game. It was close.
Yeah.
You had some points. You had some. There was good defense in that game too. So you had some of everything in that game. I have a feeling we're going to get a high-scoring game in the Natty game, though.
Yeah, I think so too. Those defensive games like that, to me, it's almost like I have to wait until the game's over and kind of assess how it turned out like it did, because some of the defensive struggles like that, as you're watching the game, you're like, man, this is boring as crap. But then when you get to the end of the game and somebody's got to kick a 60-yard field goal to win the game, and you're looking back on the game and you realize what a great game it was, and great defensive performance, as long as it's not a lot of turnovers. Now, those are the ones that can really bore you to death. 5 or 6 turnovers on each side. Neither team can move the ball.
Yeah.
Those games
that's
I
just
really
sloppy.
hate.
Yeah, that's just a sloppy game. There was a big debate all season amongst Georgia fans this year about defense winning championships. That old defense wins championships. And while generally speaking, I still think you have to have a pretty good defense to win. And in fact, if you even in this age of high-flying offenses, last year, Clemson had the number one defense in America. They won the national title. The year before that, Alabama had the number one defense in America. They won the national title. Now, they both had amazing offenses too. But Kirby Smart was asked, I believe it was heading into the SEC championship game, like the week leading up to that game. He was asked in one of the press conferences about that old saying, you know, does defense win championships? And he's a defensive guy. And his answer was, the phrase defense wins championships doesn't mean nearly as much as it used to. And that's coming
Pretty
from
sure
Kirby
I saw
Smart.
that, yeah.
That's coming from Kirby Smart, a conservative guy, a defensive guy from the time he was in Pop Warner up through his playing days. His entire coaching career was spent as a defensive guy. He's considered a defensive-minded head coach. And even he said heading into that LSU game, I love defense, but that look around, that whole defense win championship thing don't really mean as much as it used to right now. And I think he was right. You know, I think you still need it. I mean, Oklahoma has proved that you still need to have at least a defense that can hold its own,
or at least one that can hold a team under 60 points.
Yeah. I mean, Oklahoma's offense this year wasn't as good as the last 2 years, but it was still really, really good. But I mean, the last 2 years, their offense was, you know, unbelievable. But their defense was just so bad they couldn't even win a playoff game. And then, you know, so we'll see. That's one of the reasons I was so late jumping on the LSU train this year. Not that I didn't know they were a good team. I had them in the top 5, I think, almost the entire season. But
how would you assess their defense now, looking back on this season?
I catch a lot of flack, but I mean, let's be honest here. They gave up 38 points to Vandy. I mean, you know, we can't go. It's easy to look now and say, yeah, clearly their defense is better now than it was then. But when that was happening, that didn't look good. You know, and I get it. Okay, it was a pick 6 or something. Okay, so your defense only gave up 30 to Vandy. Like, that's not much better. We gave up 6 to Vandy. So, and then even a little later in the season, 700 yards to Ole Miss, 400 yards rushing. I mean, that, considering what we had seen from Oklahoma the couple of years prior, like, that didn't look good. Now, maybe LSU's offense is so good that it doesn't matter, or maybe their defense really has gotten better, and I think that's what it is. And I actually had a guy call in last night, an LSU fan, and tell me that right now is the first time since week 1 that LSU has had all 11 starters healthy and available to play for a game. They're getting Michael Divinity back. Grant Delpit was banged up a lot this year. And if you look at just the numbers, LSU has been a lot better defensively in their last 3 games than they were all the games before that. Going back to if you start at the Texas A&M game, their last game of the regular season, and you look at the Texas A&M game, the Georgia game, and the Oklahoma game, their defense has played way better than it did the first 5-6 weeks of the season. So I still don't think their defense is as good as Clemson, though. Like, I think Clemson's defense is better. And if the trend continues, that means Clemson will win this game, because Clemson's got a legit offense, too. So the last 2 years, the team with the best defense has won, even though both teams have had good offenses. You go back to 2017, Georgia had a great offense. We averaged 40-something points a game. People forget because our offense was so bad this year. But, you know, we averaged about 40 points a game in 2017 with Chubb and Michelle. Alabama averaged about 45 a game. We lost to Alabama in the Natty game in overtime, 26-23. Alabama had a little bit better defense than we did that year. They were the number 1 overall defense. We were like top 10 or so. Alabama wins. Last year, Clemson and Alabama both scoring 50 points a game all year long. Title game comes around. Clemson had the better defense. They were the number 1 ranked defense in America heading into that game. They win, whatever it was, 48 whatever it was ridiculous, 48-16, whatever, 44-16. So if that trend continues, Clemson will win this game, but I'm not convinced that'll happen. Yeah, I got to do my preview video today, and I'll be honest, sitting here right now, I still don't know who I'm going to pick when I do the preview video. This is just a tough one to pick for me.
LSU, where do they rank in red zone performance?
I don't have any idea.
No idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously, you know, we both talked about it since the game, but if Ohio State scores touchdowns on those first 3 possessions, I think we're talking about a totally different game.
Yeah.
And I think without actually having the statistics in front of me, LSU is pretty good in the red zone.
Yeah.
But I mean, shit, it's not hard to be when you're scoring 60 points a game.
Yeah. And Ohio State is a really good team. Like, I almost feel like Clemson. I agree with you. Ohio State should have scored touchdowns, and maybe that outcome becomes different or whatever. But they didn't. Even it, like, I hate doing this because it makes it seem like Dabo Swinney is right and acting like a giant baby, and I don't think he is. It still seems to me like people just don't. I don't see many people giving Clemson a chance in this game, and that just blows my mind that people feel that way. And I may end up picking LSU. I don't know yet, but the idea, and I've heard it from a lot of people over the last couple of weeks, the idea that Clemson just doesn't have a chance in this game, it's mind-boggling to me.
It is. I mean, and it's the same thing. The same exact thing happened with Ohio State. I found myself not giving Clemson much of a chance in that game at first. And then, first drive, first 2 drives, most of the first half, in fact, didn't they hold Clemson scoreless till like the last 3 or 4 minutes of the first half?
Yeah, it was 16-0 at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, Ohio State had scored 4 times, but only 1 touchdown. And of course, that's really what lost in the game. I mean, we've been over this already, but I think that was clearly a fumble. And I understand why Ohio State fans are mad, but I would be more mad that I kicked 3 field goals in the red zone instead of scoring touchdowns.
For sure.
In big games like that, you just can't do that. So, I just feel like Clemson, like I think people, and maybe this is because I'm a Georgia fan, and I kept hearing from people all year long, Ohio State ain't no good, ain't played nobody, the Big Ten is terrible. And they were only saying that because they hate Justin Fields, and they were trying to justify, how can Justin Fields have 50 touchdowns? Oh, okay, yeah, it must be because the Big Ten is no good. So maybe that's why, maybe I'm just hearing more of that, but it just seems like Clemson, because now a lot of the Georgia fans, I think, are picking up LSU. Like, they're not giving Clemson any credit for beating Ohio State. I think Ohio State was a really, really good team. I mean, they had the best player in America on defense in Chase Young, NFL talent all over the field. NFL
most
wide
of the
receivers.
year, we were all saying they were the best team in the country.
They looked
down.
they looked like it, because you mentioned LSU not struggling yet all year and no one slowing that offense down. Ohio State didn't struggle. I mean, they blew everybody out. Their last 3 games they played Penn State, Michigan, and Wisconsin in 3 straight weeks to end the season, and beat them all, and the games were never in doubt. That's impressive.
The Wisconsin game, if you remember the championship game, Wisconsin jumped all over them. Wasn't it like 21-0?
Yeah, they were losing. I think Ohio State was even losing at halftime.
They were.
Yeah. They came back and won the game, but I don't know, man. It's so hard to pick this Natty game to me, but hey, who's better, Joe Burrow or Trevor Lawrence?
Ooh, wow. Wasn't expecting that. I mean, I'm gonna call it a toss-up.
Yeah, clearly Joe Burrow is having a better season.
Right?
How much of that is scheme and Joe Brady and yada yada yada? I don't know. I still say Trevor Lawrence. If you could build if you were an NFL GM and you could build a quarterback in a lab, it would be Trevor Lawrence. Maybe you give him a different haircut, but generally speaking, you would build Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I think he's there. It seems like every year they try to tell us there's some can't miss prospect for the NFL draft, but really you got to go all the way back to. I mean, you have to go a long time, I think, to find a guy that's as NFL ready as Trevor Lawrence was. Really, his senior year in high school.
And the dude runs tough.
Yeah.
I don't remember him running like he did in that Ohio State game before that. I mean, yeah, he ran, but in that particular game, man, he, like that first touchdown he scored, he was running away from defensive backs.
Yeah.
And I mean, that
67 yards. And I say that, it looks like he doesn't look like the most athletic person in the world when he's running, because tall people just look awkward when they run anyway, sort of.
Yeah.
But he's taking almost 4 yards every, when he's running at full speed, it's like 4 yards every step he takes. So it doesn't look like he's moving fast, but he's eating up a lot of ground whatever he's. I guarantee you those Ohio State defensive backs know he's fast when they couldn't catch him.
Yeah,
A 70-yard touchdown run against Ohio State, unbelievable, or 67 or whatever it was. But
he looked a lot like Peyton Manning on that run.
shit, come on.
There's
I don't know
one
about
dude
that.
there's one dude that admittedly cannot run, can't throw a spiral, and can't sing a lick.
Yeah. BVD, can you believe we have talked sports for the entire show?
The last two.
We have to do better.
Yeah.
We got to do better.
Well, I mean, you're the boss on here. I can always throw something weird in there.
Yeah. That let's make that each of our homework assignments this weekend. Let's each try to come up with 2 or 3 non-sports related topics that we can talk about next week. Not that we won't talk about sports. I mean, the Natty game is next week.
Yeah,
so
I was gonna say,
on Monday morning show, we'll be talking about the Natty game again. And then Wednesday we'll be talking about, the results of the game or whatever. But not the whole show. We do that enough hours of the day. This is supposed to be maybe 50-50. I don't know.
How did we go an hour so
I don't
far
know.
without you making one folding chair joke? I even studied folding chair accident statistics before we came on.
Did you really?
Didn't get to use any. I've still got the page pulled up, man. I was just waiting for my opportunity.
Before we end the show, if there's any, if you want to educate us on folding chair accidents, now's the time.
It's funny. It's most of what I discovered was folding chair accidents with children, and it's actually astonishing the number of those accidents that you actually have.
And is Cade May's dad a child?
Well, I'm thinking I'm going to have to say no, since he was an All-American,
Right.
or at least an All-Conference guy.
Right.
But the money, the average lawsuit wins $450,000 on this. I mean, there's some ridiculous statistics out there if you just sit down and get to digging on them sometimes.
And Cade May's dad, Kevin is his name, right? He was an offensive lineman or defensive lineman?
He was an offensive lineman. I always want to call him an All-American, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
I think he was just All SEC.
An offensive.
He was a great offensive lineman.
Right. And of course, offensive linemen traditionally in a 3-point stance. If he were to try that now, would it be like a 2.5 point stance type thing? 2.8 or so.
2 9/10.
There you go. That's right. Because as far as I
7/8.
yeah,
7/8.
as far as I know, he does have 9 other digits.
Yeah, what do you do? I mean, he didn't completely lose that thing, so that makes the fraction even harder to figure out. Like, instead of 7/8, if you take away the thumb, instead of 7/8, you would have I can't even figure that one out. That's for somebody like the general to figure out.
Have you seen the meme going around? You know how people make the Vol symbol with their fingers? Have you seen the one and it's missing half the L or whatever?
I have, and Carter sent that to me, and I was looking for that. I still can't find it, but I'm looking for it to put on my green screen tonight.
If I've seen it a bunch of times on Facebook over the last couple of days. If I happen to come across it again, I'll save it or whatever and text message it to you, and you should be able to find a way to get it from your phone to your computer.
Yeah, I'll find it for sure.
Okay.
I haven't scoured Facebook and Twitter yet. I'm figuring Twitter is probably going to be my best bet.
2% Cream, thank you for the super chat, sir. He says, been watching for 3 years, but first time commenter. Florida fan, by the way. Keep it up, Uncle Lou. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the super chat, but more importantly, really glad you decided to start participating in the comment section. It's a jungle in there. The comment section is the wild, wild west of the internet, so be careful, sir. Wear protection at all times in the comment section. That would be my advice to give you there, but yeah, thank you for the super chat.
By all means, keep your hands, arms, and pinkies inside the ride. For sure.
At all times. at all. The only time you should extend your hands would be to bang on your keyboard out of anger. That's it. That is acceptable to do in the comment section. In fact, there's a bunch of people in there doing it right now. So
Yeah,
you'll fit
I
right in that regard.
haven't Googled it, but I'm pretty sure it's a very low percentage of severed pinky accidents banging your keyboard. So that would have to be a very low percentage.
Something tells me, because Kevin Mays, younger folks, even people my age, I think, pretty good at the typing. Something tells me Kevin Mays is one of these type of typers anyway, so I'm not sure the pinky thing would really matter for his typing. I don't know. Hey, BVD, has it been unusually warm up there for you the last few weeks?
Actually, well, yeah, it's been kind of chilly this week, but I'm hearing it's supposed to be like 70 tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I got a question,
Yeah.
and I hope I word this right. When I was reading up on the Kevin Mays thing, his wife, I guess, is also in the lawsuit, I think, for like $500,000 for, I wish I hadn't have taken it down upper, consortium. What the hell does that mean?
I think
What
it
does that
means. I think it means because she has also suffered due to his loss.
Right.
Now, I'm not gonna. Why would a? I don't know how to say this in a PG way. He's not able to put in there what he used to be, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, well, I wish you'd have just went ahead and put that out there, however you want to put it out there.
I mean,
Okay, a consortium is a group made up of two or more individuals, companies, or governments that work together to achieving a common objective. So, yeah, she's basically suing because the sex sucks.
somebody
Is that
said.
okay?
Somebody in the comments said she liked the shocker, and a third of that is gone, and that was the one that went in the stink too. So she's really disappointed. I don't want to talk about that. I don't know. I don't know Cade May's mother. For all I know, she's a wonderful woman. But it is. Yeah. Why is she in on this lawsuit though? Listen, the lawsuit is frivolous and thrown out. Why did he wait 2 years to file suit? Is what I want to know.
Well, I mean,
Clearly, I know the answer. Clearly, you do too.
I'm still kind of baffled by the whole thing.
Well, he's filing the suit now because they want to use that to get a waiver. I mean, this
Yeah,
clearly.
and I had somebody tell me yesterday that the reason they think that he will get the waiver is because they will say that people have been bullying Cade. Students at Georgia have been bullying him because of this lawsuit. And I'm like, really? Who the hell's going to bully 6'6", 300 and whatever?
I mean,
And
I've said my piece on Cade Mays. I think Cade Mays is a good offensive lineman. I think he's an A or an A+ run blocker. I think he's about a C pass blocker, but I think he can improve. But he needs help in his footwork and things like that. But he's a great offensive lineman. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not just because he's transferring. And I even said this on your show. One of the reasons I like Cade Mays and one of the reasons he's such a good run blocker is because he's nasty. He's mean. He's an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that in the best possible. I mean that in the best possible way. The idea that Cade Mays is gonna slump around campus getting bullied is laughable.
It is. It's absurd, really. But I see the guy's point. I mean, the guy that told me that, I understand why he says that, because it doesn't matter if he's actually getting bullied or not. All they got to do is say he is. In this day and age, Andre the Giant, I'm sure got bullied at some point in his life. Who's buying that?
Right.
Hulk Hogan gets bullied every day, I bet, don't he?
Oh, yeah, poor thing.
I'm not buying it.
Yeah, everyone feels so bad for him.
Well, 2 or 3 years from now, the Mays family will be lapping, as they say, all the way to the bank. I don't think they're hurting for money anyway.
Yeah.
I can't remember what Kevin does or
Did he
what
play
his
in the
wife
NFL?
does.
Did he play in the NFL at all?
You know what? I want to say he did, but I don't hold me to that.
Yeah.
Because if he did, he definitely wasn't, all pro lineman, to my knowledge.
Right. And the money back then wasn't what it is
Mhm.
now. So, you know,
Yeah.
they're millionaires or whatever. But
Yeah, their signing bonuses now are like 50 times more than
yeah,
their
it's
entire contracts back then.
insane, isn't it? It's just, I can't even fathom the amount of money some of these uh, players get. It's just
Can you imagine just,
crazy.
I mean, being able to wake up and hop in your whatever your Ferrari or hop in whatever it is someone's driving you around in, and go anywhere you want to go, fly anywhere you want to go, buy anything you want to go or you want to buy, and not even have to give it a fraction of a second thought.
Oh,
That's just, I mean, that's unfathomable to me.
I have a non-sports related topic we can end the show on. Let me read this super chat first, but something you just
Okay.
said it gave me an idea. Ryan Drew, thank you for the super chat. He says, when Florida goes downhill, all the players can hit the transfer portal and claim sexual harassment from Dan Mullet's wife. It would not surprise me if there was somebody that wanted out of Florida for some reason. And I guarantee you, if they got this attorney, Tom Marr, this is the same attorney Justin Fields had. That's who Cade Mays has. This guy is known as getting players' waivers approved. I mean, that's sort of his specialty. It would not surprise me if somebody were to leave Florida and hire Tom Mars, if that's not the sort of direction they would go in pursuing a waiver. And it's funny too, this guy Tom Mars, everybody he represents, when it comes time to get the waiver, it's always some hot button social issue that people are scared of, right? With Justin Fields, it was racism. Now with Cade Mays, it's bullying. When he represents a Florida guy, it's going to be sexual harassment. I mean, he will have covered all three of the hot button sort of social justice issues of the day, right? This guy is just really creating a reputation for himself.
Yeah, what's the next hot button social excuse that's going to pop up? Because it's unknown for now.
What if Trevor Lawrence announces he's transferring from Clemson and Tom Mars represents him and they claim it's because he's transgendered and not getting treated fairly?
Oh, that's terrible.
With the haircut. What's up, Sunshine? Shout out
Yeah.
to you, sir. But let me ask you this. You just mentioned such and such getting picked up in their Ferrari and blah, blah, blah. That just, have you ever been in, even ridden in, or driven a supercar? A Ferrari, a Lamborghini,
No.
a Viper, anything like that?
No, and I'm pretty sure I know where you're going with this. No, I have not. And to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever even stood within 100 yards of one that I'm aware of. Nothing like that.
If you
Maybe,
were,
well, no, I take that back. A DeLorean in the 80s, if that qualifies as a supercar.
Of course it does. Sir, that's the only car that can time travel. What do you mean? Does that count as a supercar?
Well, I know
Clearly
it's
it
the
does.
only one that carries a flux capacitor.
Yeah.
Right.
Clearly that counts. Now, if you won the $1 billion lottery tomorrow and you could buy any supercar you wanted, is there, like, did you have a picture of a Lamborghini on your wall as a kid or anything? Like, is there
No.
some sort of dream car that you have, or are cars you really could care less?
My supercar, if you want to call it that, or my dream car, has always been like two of them, a '76 Stingray, or like a mid '70s model Chevelle Super Sport, whatever. I think they're Super Sports. Yeah, those muscle cars, man. Those are my favorite. I've never had a love for I'll call it a designer car.
Yeah.
Like that. I certainly wouldn't turn one down.
I never really have either. I told the story a million times. My dad had a Mustang when I was a kid, and to me, it might as well have been a space shuttle. Like, I just thought it was the coolest thing. I was never exposed to anything else like Ferraris, Lamborghinis, any of those type. That stuff was completely foreign to me. But my dad had that Mustang when he was a kid, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. And I always said I'm gonna have one day. Now I have one, but I have driven a Ferrari. My brother-in-law has one.
You made a video about that, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I thought you were kind of heading in that direction.
And I didn't do anything crazy in it or whatever. Obviously he was in the passenger seat with me, but I just, drove it a little bit. But
Well, that had to be cool. I mean,
That's the only time I've driven anything like that. A long, long time ago. Do you remember the movie gallery? Did they have that in where you're at? It was like a
mo-
block. It was like Blockbuster.
no, but
Okay.
I get you. I know
Okay.
we
I
we had
worked at one.
Blockbuster,
I
so
worked at one in college, and there was this guy, and he would come in every Friday night. I mean, it was like clockwork. At about 8 o'clock, he would come in by himself every time. He would come in. He would rent his 3 movies. He would buy, a 20-ounce Coke and a bag of microwavable popcorn. Rent his 3 movies, and off he'd go every
mm,
Friday night forever. And we're up there working one Sunday, and it was 2-day rentals, I guess. So we're there working one Sunday, and this Dodge Viper pulls up on the curb right in front of the store, and out hops this guy. And I'd never noticed what car he had before, and I guess he had just got this thing or whatever. But it was a all black Dodge Viper, and Vipers hadn't been out very long at this time because this was a while ago. I mean, it looked like the Batmobile pulled up out in
so
front of
this
the
was in the
movie
'90s,
gallery.
I guess.
It was either the late '90s or the early 2000s. I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember which. I worked there over that period of time, and he pulled up in that thing, and I remember thinking, I had never seen anything like it. Like I said, Vipers were new at the time. At least they were new to me. Maybe they had been out and I just hadn't seen them or whatever. But I'm
Yeah.
staring at that thing, and he comes in to return his movies, and he must have noticed, like I must not have even spoke to him or even looked at him. I just, like, my mouth is just hanging open looking at this car, and he noticed, I guess. And he's like, "Oh, you like the car, huh?" And we had sort of got to know him because, like, literally every Friday night, same time, this guy would come in. And so we got to where we would talk to him when he came in. And he was like, "Oh, you like the car, huh?" And I was like, "I think I like the Batmobile," or whatever I said. And I was 18, 19, something like that. I mean, just a kid. And
Young, impressionable young
yeah.
fella.
And he goes, "You want to go for a ride?" And I was like, yeah. I turned around, I told the boss, I said, "Look here, I don't know if it's break time or not, but I'll be back in a little bit. I'm not turning this down."
Right.
I mean, like I said, it was like riding in a space shuttle to me. So he didn't let me drive it, but I rode in the passenger seat, and he took me. I don't remember where we went now, but I mean, my eyes must have been this big around, and I don't know. Probably people are listening, going, "Why is that? Who cares? Why is that a big deal? You got to ride in a Viper." I don't know. And I've never even really been a car guy. Like, I wasn't raised that way. I don't work on cars. I don't really care that much about cars. But
Right.
I don't know. I think when you don't know anything about cars and then you see something like that and you get to ride in it, like it was amazing to me. And then nothing else like that ever happened to me again until I got to drive my brother-in-law's car at one time, which he doesn't have anymore, which makes me mad 'cause I'm going back up there in April, and he sold
My
it.
dad was a car guy growing
Was he?
up.
Yeah.
Well, before him and my mom divorced when I was 8, and I was with her the rest of the time. I remember he was into they were muscle cars now if you look at them, but when he owned them they were like stock off the showroom floor. He had a Plymouth Barracuda. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those. Um, he had a Dodge Charger, and what was it? Man, he was into Plymouth, and he had a Plymouth something, this big red beast of a car, man. That thing was, I mean, it was a straight hot rod. And so, yeah, I was never a car guy at
Yeah.
all. I mean, right now for me, changing the oil, putting gas in it, and making sure I don't back into things because I can't see with the shit anymore is about as extensive as my automotive prowess goes. But I thought of something. While you were telling me your story, I thought of something for quote unquote homework for the weekend for Monday morning show. Something maybe we can talk about. Either weird jobs or jobs where you had something happen on the job that you'll remember for
Oh.
the rest of your life.
I already right now can think of a couple of those. So,
Yep.
given the
Well,
weekend to think about it, I'm sure I can come up with some good ones too. So, yeah, that's a good one.
I delivered pizza in a tourist town for 6 years. So you can imagine
Oh,
some of the stuff I've
yeah,
seen.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tell us the. In fact, don't even answer this question. But one question I am going to ask you when we start talking about this next week and you get ready to tell your pizza stories, I am going to want to know if you had any porn experiences. Don't tell us yes or no right now. We'll have to tune in next week and find out. But
Would you say porn experience?
yes, I fully
Okay.
expect to hear a story from you where you knocked on a door to deliver a pizza and some 40-year-old woman answered the door in her robe and a smile and nothing else and blah, 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 and didn't have money for a tip, so she invited you in, and I can't wait to hear it. So, again, don't tell us yes or no. Let us ponder that over the weekend. we'll find out next week what sort of pizza delivery stories BVD has. But yeah, that's a good idea, and I'll see what I can come up with too. But anyway, time for last words though. Wrap it up for us, BVD.
Hey, thanks to everybody that gave us super chat this morning. Always appreciate those. Lou always reads them and does all that good stuff. Thanks to all you guys that have tuned in this week. Hopefully you'll tell your buddies, and this thing's going to get better. I feel like it's going to get better from here on out, especially when we get started talking about non-sports topics.
Oh yeah,
That's when you got to get your buddies in here, because we're gonna educate some people, aren't we, Lou? We're gonna break it down.
oh yeah. Once BVD starts telling his pizza delivery porn stories, I fully expect this show to blow up. We may even be on the news.
You're assuming I have a pizza delivery. Look, I must say this about that, and I won't say any more. I'm a very honest guy, Lou. Anything I tell you Monday, I swear before our Lord and Savior, will be 100% the truth.
I believe that, and I don't know if I'm assuming that you do have a story like that to tell, but I'm definitely hoping that you do have a story like that to tell, and we'll find out next week.
I'm not gonna say anything because you asked me not to.
Okay.
We'll have plenty of time to talk about that Monday.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, to the morning show. Again, we do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. Thanks for tuning in. I'm sorry, I've got BVD pizza delivery porn thoughts in my head right now, and I'm having a hard time.
Sorry about that visual, by the way.
Oh man.
You just wrecked a lot of people's weekend.
Yeah.
Or made it, one or the other.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah, this is completely off the rails. Appreciate you guys tuning in. The great news is next week is the last week of college football. So after that, you have a lot of this off the rails type ridiculousness to look forward to on this on this morning show. Like BVD said, we're gonna have a great time. And if you guys have been watching my night show for over the last 2 or 3 years, and you like what you see now, you know it did not start out that way. It takes time to evolve and develop these shows and to sort of figure out what's working, what's not working, that kind of thing. So the ones of you that are tuned in now, me and BVD really appreciate it, and you'll be able to say you were here from the beginning. And
Yep.
I can't promise you exactly where this show will be a year from now, but I can promise you it will be better, improved. We will continue to add to the show as we go along. Some things will work, some won't. But you guys are here from the beginning, and it means a lot to me and BVD both personally that you guys tune in and watch. So again, thank you very, very much for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend. I'll have a couple of videos up for you guys over the weekend. I'm sure BVD will too, and some live streams. And we will see you, me and BVD, next Monday morning at 8 a.m. for the morning show with BVD and Uncle Lou. Right, BVD?
Yep. That's right. And if you're not out creating your own pizza delivery porn story tonight and you got some free time, hop on over to BBD TV at 8 o'clock and we'll chop it up for a couple hours.
Yeah, I'll be there for a while. So I'll see you over there tonight, BVD. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Have a good morning.
That's right.